Okay, we will pass three topics. First, the structure of the nerve cell, rest potential, and the action potential. Okay, firstly, in a human brain, brain contain 85 billions of nerve cells or neurons. Neurons, it's a unit of nervous system. Okay, here if we look to the neurons, neurons contain these parts: dendrites, soma or cell body, axon, and the axon terminals. Firstly, if you look to the tree-like branches in a blue circle, it's a dendrite. The dendrites receive information from another neurons. They take informations. Okay, and this information, not information, this is a stimulus, the impulse. Okay, then soma contain DNA or genetic materials of this cell. Then axon transport signals which come from dendrites. Okay, axon terminals, it's a finish of this way of signals or impulse. Okay, here the resting potential. Resting potential is a rest time in neurons. It means no action, no impulse. They just rest. Okay, what is the potential or membrane potential? Firstly, if we look to the neurons, if we look closer to this part, and if we put voltmeter, micro electrodes inside of the neurons, we can see that in the inside of the cell it's a negative charge, and the outside of the cell it's a positive charge. And this called membrane potential. Also, in a rest potential, in the inside of the cell, inside of the neurons, it's a minus, negative charge. Outside positive, and this means the rest potential. Rest potential is equal to minus 70 millivolts. Okay, and why in the outside is plus and the inside is minus? It depends to the ions which are closer to the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is they divided. This is the outside extracellular, and this is the inside. This is the inside of the cell. Okay, plasma membrane divided them. Also, in a plasma membrane, we have a gates. We have a gates. Okay, in our body, we have a lot of ions. First of all, like sodium ions, chloride ions, potassium ions. Also, A minus, it's a protein with a minus charge. Okay, now in the inside of the cell, we have a more chloride and anions, which give negative charge into the inside of the cell. In the outside of the cell, we have a more positively charged ions like a sodium and some chlorides. Okay, the chlorides is located in the inside. Okay, now we have gates, channels. For example, this one is permeable just for potassium, this one is permeable just for sodium, and this one is sodium-potassium pump. It means that this pump move outside of the cell 3 molecules of sodium and put inside of the cell 2 molecules of potassium. Okay. In the rest, all these gates are closed. It means that in the rest, no sodium cannot move into the cell. Okay. Now, if we look to this pump. They are working all the time. Also, they need energy. Also, what they do 3 molecules of sodium outside, 2 molecules of potassium inside. This is a function of sodium-potassium pump. Okay. Now we will talk about action potential. Action potential means the signals or impulse move by axon to another neuron. To another neurons. Okay, action potential means the change of charges. Okay, now we will look the direction of impulse. For example, if this one is receive some impulse here, the direction of this impulse will be like that. And now, before the impulse come to the axon, here we have a resting potential, which means that inside of the cell is minus and the outside of the cell is plus. It means that this is a resting potential, and the inside of the cell it's equal to minus 70 millivolts. Okay, now if we look to this side, we can see this graph here. First of all, this is a time. This is a volts graph. First of all, in the inside of the cell, in a cell or neurons, in the resting potential we have minus 70. This line is a resting potential. This line is a resting potential. This line is a threshold. Threshold means that impulse have to reach this point. If they reach this point, they become depolarization. Depolarization means changes the sides. It means that inside of the cell become positive and the outside of the cell become negative. When they go to the peak, it's a plus 30, become repolarization. Repolarization means they become more, the inside of the cell become negative and the outside of the cell become positive. Also here we have a hyperpolarization. Then after some time we have resting potential. Okay, here by the open and the closed channels, potassium and the sodium channels, this cycle occurs. Okay, firstly, in a resting potential, all the channels are closed. It means that no sodium and no potassium ions cannot reach or cannot move through the plasma membrane. After they reach the threshold, the sodium channels are open and the sodium's ions go to the inside of the cell. It means that in the inside of the cell we have a more positive charged ions. That means in the inside of the cell we have plus and the outside of the cell we have a minus charge. And this difference between, look, here we have a plus, here we have a minus, they change. This change is action potential. And by these changes, the impulse goes through the axon. Okay, after they reach the peak, all the sodium channels are inactivated and the potassium channels are activated and the potassium ions go to the outside. And they go normally to this one, the inside minus and the outside is plus. After that, they go to the hyperpolarization, then to go the resting potential. And this cycle, it means that they repeat all the way. And this, okay, that's all.